Demetrius says, when approaching shoe stores wanting to do their podcast or training session for their members, is it standard to present 2 to 3 topics, or is it acceptable to present on a single topic? That was Michelle. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. I run a white label agency in Pakistan. I'm curious, how do you evaluate if a white label company is the best fit for you? I want to ace my white labeling game and would really appreciate your tips. Ali says, quick question. Based on your experience, what are the top 2 reasons that you see clients deciding to leave or to churn? What's up, guys? I think we're live. I think that worked. I think we're back in business. I think this is where we hang out with the coolest agency owners in existence. You guys. And just a couple little quick announcements before we get rocking and a-rolling. Biggest one is this Friday, we are doing our recurring revenue workshop. And I'll tell you, this has been a game changer because I like lazy money a lot more than have to do shit for money, personally. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I've kind of cracked the code on how to bring in a bunch of lazy recurring money that starts and compounds before you do any real work. And I'll tell you, it's just made life a lot easier. Passive, automated, recurring income. I started it as a mantra 6 or 7 years ago, had 0 of it, but I'm happy to report today we got lots of it, and I want to show you guys how to build it. And it's really what I call principle stacking, which is there's about 7 principles that all make agency life easier, and you stack them all on top of each other, and the combination of them I think is, I won't say it's easy, it's simple, but I think it's something anybody can do. So I'm going to put a link for that for you guys now, for those of you guys who are interested. I don't even know if this is working right now. Recurring revenue workshop. Let's put a little link. For those of you guys who are interested, check that out, because I think this is going to be the coolest shit ever. Obviously, I'm a little biased on the subject. Anyways, let's get into the good stuff. Let's talk about you guys and all the evil empires you guys are building. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum-bum. This is the key. Don't watch too much wrestling when you're a kid, or you'll turn out like me, kids. Anyway, let's get into the good stuff here. This is for those of you guys, I guess, who want to take over the world and all those cool things. So the first question we got is Dapo says, experienced agency owners, if you were starting again today, what would you do differently? I'll tell you the thing that I think trips people up too much is they don't build momentum. And momentum comes from doing one thing over and over. So that means one niche, one problem, one solution, one media. You combine that and just continue with it, and what you'll find is it stacks over time. I think where people get tripped up in this is they just try and do too much. My favorite way of doing this is leveraging other people's audiences. So you guys who followed me in the 90-day challenge, all we really did is just find other people in the space who have big audiences. We created some content with them, and then people find us through that content. They come to us, they buy our stuff, and we close those people through video, so I don't even have to talk to them. So they watch our stuff, then they end up on our website, they watch the video, they close. Very little to do. So that's how I like it. That's how I think it should be. For those of you guys who are just kind of in that kind of beginning stages, or you're starting over in a new niche, don't make the stuff more complicated. Have lots of conversations with people, figure out who they are, what they're trying to do, what they really want. Your stuff will just be better because of it. So I hope that's helpful. I know that's not a complex answer, but you'd be amazed at how much difficulty arises when people break those rules. Demetrius says, when approaching shoe stores wanting to do their podcast or training session for their members, is it standard to present 2 to 3 topics, or is it acceptable to present on a single topic? Demetrius, so for those of you guys who aren't familiar with the term, shoe store is a term that I'm kind of giving credit for. It's actually a Dan Kennedy metaphor. It's the idea if you sell products or services, it's like comparing it to shoes. Don't sell shoes to people who don't have any shoes on their feet. Sell shoes to people who got 200 pairs of shoes in the closet. And obviously, if they got 200 pairs of shoes in the closet, they had to buy them from somewhere. So if you sell Nikes, I found the best way to sell Nikes is to go to the Reebok store and co-create content with the Reebok store and show them all the valuable benefits of Reebok and what you'll find is, or your shoes, and people will buy it. So Demetrius is saying, how do I approach these people who have audiences in my space? I don't want to look like a dumbass. I don't want to do anything that's kind of like, not going to work, basically. So here's the thing that trips people up is I use frameworks, and so it's always the same, but it's always a little bit different, and it's always personalized to the person I'm talking to, but it's always the same kind of message. And so this is the thing that trips people up is sometimes I will use a training. Sometimes I will pitch them on the idea of a podcast. Sometimes I will pitch them on the idea of an expert interview. Sometimes I will pitch them on the idea of let's do a webinar. Here's the secret. Go with the flow. If they got a podcast, pitch them on the idea of I've got a really cool podcast episode. If they have free trainings they put out for their group weekly, pitch them on the idea of a free training that you guys can do together. If they're doing expert interviews, suggest expert interviews. If they're publishing a podcast, pitch them on the idea of a podcast. If they're putting out magazine articles, the worst thing you can do is try and get them to do something they're not already doing. So if they're not doing free trainings for their people and you say, I have an idea for a free training, you will meet resistance in that because that's just not something they're doing. Or if you say, hey, I got an idea for a podcast and they're not doing a podcast, now you have to convince them to start a podcast. So I go with the flow and I always pitch them just one idea. And it's very simple, just like, hey, I noticed there's a gap in all the cool stuff you're doing for this. So I think this would be really useful to your audience. And then you share some good ideas and good insights and good value on that. You'd be amazed. People will come to you. And if you guys do our process where you do your pitches, once they come to you through video, it's even easier because now you don't have to chase anybody. People watch your content. It goes out to tens of thousands of people. They watch it. They find the breadcrumb trail back to you. And then they click on your stuff. And they close themselves through video. So I think that's super powerful. Anyways, I hope that's helpful, my man. I hope that simplifies the game for you. Just go with the flow a little bit. Offer them more of what they're already doing. Sounds simple, but if they're putting out a magazine, I got an idea for a magazine article. It sounds simple, but where people get tripped up is they go, oh, the technique is then therefore offer them an article in a magazine. But if they don't have a magazine, it's not going to work, right? So you have to go with the flow a little bit. And that means just spend 5 minutes, check out who they are and what they're doing, and offer to help them with what they're doing already. So Basil says, at what point did you decide, okay, this niche I'm targeting is just not going to work out and I have to drop it? Some background context, been trying to target roofers and HVACs with a database reactivation, pay us after getting a paid invoice deal, but somehow they aren't actually reading the offer details, but instead reacting and saying, oh, this is the same old tired lame pitch we always get dozens of times a day from you pay-per-lead marketers, which it clearly isn't, so they aren't paying attention. Thinking, is it worth it to do whatever I need to do to break through at that zombie brain wall, or just say forget it and move on? This is a loaded question, if ever there was a loaded question, my friend. And I want to give you some insights on this because I don't think enough people understand this, and therefore they make it significantly harder than it needs to be. So the first thing I want to tell you is that the internet is full of assholes. Really, genuinely. Like Mike Tyson said, most people do things online that would get them punched in the face in real life. It's made people too comfortable with being an asshole from far away. So I want you to know, this is part of the process of breaking through any industry is like you're going to deal with assholes and people who like shut you down and are rude and kind of mean. And the idea is like marketers just have a bad reputation. It is what it is. You inherit it, earned or not. And therefore these people, like some of them are going to be assholes to you. Now, having said that, if you want to break through faster, go back to the people who shut you down and were assholes and just say, thank you for being honest. Can you tell me why my shit sounds too similar to everybody else's? And they'll help you clarify why it sounds exactly the same. This is something most people don't think to do, but just say, hey, thank you for your brutal honesty. I'd love to hear your opinion. I'm not going to try and sell you, but like, tell me why this sounds like everything else. And they can help you diagnose where it's the same. Now, having said that, this is the loaded part of the question that I don't think enough people understand. This is something that comes with experience of working in a different industry, but I've seen this in dozens of industries where 80% of the clients in every industry, doesn't matter which one, you wouldn't fucking want. I don't think enough people understand that. That means if you're working with dentists, 4 out of 5 dentists aren't worth working with at all. They have no money. They don't know how to make it work. They don't have systems. They don't have processes. They don't have teams. They don't know how to sell. They don't know how to close. And sometimes they're just not that fucking good at businesses, right? Like, imagine you're trying to promote a restaurant and they don't have good food. Like, you can't cover that up with marketing. Eventually, people are going to discover, like, the food just ain't that fucking good, right? And so, when it comes to roofers and HVAC, like just like any other industry, 80% of them are not worth working with. And part of what I've had a tremendous amount of success over the years helping people to do is identify the top 20% of the market that you actually do want to work with. And it's very, 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 very simple. I look for two things. Are they currently spending money on advertising? That's thing number one, because that indicates behavior that they're willing to spend to grow. Otherwise, you will fight them on that. And second is, do they have a certain team size already? Because that indicates they're used to paying people to solve problems. If they're not used to forking out money to grow and paying people to solve problems, they're going to fight you no matter what you say, what you do, what you offer, because it ain't about you. Now, having said that, one of the things that I've learned that may be helpful to you is understanding that sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought for this. We'll come back to that in a second. Let me just reread the question here for a second, real quick. Breaking through the zombie brain dead. So understanding, like, so much of this is actually just focusing on the right people who are doing it, because otherwise you have to convince people to do something that's inherently against their behavior. And you want people who are used to spending money and are used to paying people to solve problems, because otherwise they're going to fight. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. This really helped me with a mentor. So I used to make the value of my service about me. Meaning, like, whenever somebody said, hey, you sound the same, and you're annoying, and you're obnoxious, and I'd never pay you, and all those kind of things, I would take that personally. If ever any of you guys have ran Facebook ads, you know what I'm talking about. It's a fucking cesspool of people who just, like, bitch and complain and call you a scam in your ads, like, constantly. And one time, a mentor was telling me a story in his little town of 30,000 people. He was sitting, and the guy said, hey, what do you do for a living? They were making some small talk, and he said, oh, I'm a marketing consultant. And the guy said, oh, really? How much do you charge? And he said, $100,000 for a year of consulting. And the guy laughed, said, 100 fucking grand? You're fucking crazy, and said, I would never pay you that. And what he realized is it's actually true for that guy. Right? Because he has a little restaurant in a town of 30,000 people. He's not trying to expand and build a franchise of 45 locations or whatever. So for him, it was the honest to God's truth. It's not worth it. It's not worth 100 grand to pay for consulting. But having said that, there are plenty of people who are in different circumstances. Like, what if a restaurant has 450 locations and you can help them? That's a no-brainer to pay you 100,000. So this is what I've learned, is your stuff is different things to different people. And if you get caught up in making it mean something about you, then what happens is when people are assholes to you, you take it personally. But now I've learned to say, when people say, hey, this is no good, I would never buy this, I would never pay for it, like, that's a statement about them. That doesn't mean anything about me. And so I just say this because you're going to deal with assholes, you're going to deal with trolls, you're going to deal with people, who have, like, I don't know, just bad, nasty fucking dispositions, and that has more to do with them than it does with you. And so I wanted to just share that with you because, like, don't take any of that shit personally. When somebody says, I would never pay $100,000, that doesn't mean anything about you. It means something about them and what they would. So a big part of this, getting this right, is getting your shit in the right hands. I've seen it so many times where people are trying to sell shoes, metaphorically, to people who are barefoot, and those people say, I don't need shoes. I've gotten by 30 years without shoes. And then they're like, why is it so difficult? So don't work with the people in the industry that are fucking zombie brain. Work with the people who already get it and pitch those people and do that better. And what you'll find is it just works better because you're not talking to, for lack of a better term, morons. Like, you don't want to work with morons. And I give an example of this just so you can illustrate this. There's a period where Dan and I were testing a lot of offers with roofers, and he's since gone on to do a whole bunch with roofers. I remember we got a roofer named Eddie, and Eddie was like a fucking single alcoholic guy, and him and his wife would always fight on the phone. I still remember a phone call. Those of you guys, heard me tell the story before. It's true, though, is like, we're tracking phone calls. I'm running ads on Craigslist just to see if Eddie would make a good partner, and we're getting him a few phone calls through Craigslist. And I remember this phone call. It went like this. The ad, by the way, said, like, 5-star roofing, and Eddie's wife picks up the phone. It sounded like she just eaten a carton of cigarettes right before the call, and she goes, hello? And he's like, yeah, is this 5-star roofing? Hello? Yeah, you need a roof. 1 second. She puts the phone down and she goes, Eddie, come answer the fucking phone! Then Eddie's like, why are you always fucking bitching at me? And then you can hear them just arguing for like 7-8 minutes. Guy stays on the call the whole time. Picks it up and like, hey, yeah, this is Eddie. And the guy's like, yeah, is this 5-star roofing? Yeah, you need a roof. And you would be shocked to learn Eddie did not close that deal, right? Later, Dan ended up going with this guy who he had like 40 different crews around like, I don't know, 7 different counties or whatever, and across a couple of state lines. So he was in 3 different states. And the guy, I remember they had a meeting. The guy pulled up in a McLaren F1, which is at one time the fastest production sports car in the world. It's $1 million car. He reaches into his Gucci bag and pulls out $10,000 cash, slaps it on the table, and says, I came here to spend money. What's it going to cost me to get you? And I want you guys to understand something. Like, even though technically Eddie is a roofer and the McLaren F1 guy are roofers, those are not the same fucking people, and those are not the same caliber of client, and they're not even like in the same ballpark of understanding of what it is that you do. And so if you try and pitch your shit to the Eddies of the world, you're just going to end up frustrated and annoyed thinking that everybody in your industry is fucking retarded, and it's really not about that. So this leads me to the principal part of the question is, when do you give up on a niche? I'll tell you, people give up way too fucking soon and for the wrong reasons. They give up because it's hard. Because breaking through the group of people is hard. And the reason it's hard is very, very simple, is you have to learn how to speak their language. And it's different for everybody. Like if you and I were sitting at the dinner table and we were talking about SEO and PPC and web design and cost per action and things like that, like we would understand each other perfectly well. But I promise you, like my family, if they were sitting at the dinner table, they'd be like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? Like every industry almost has like a secret language. And so what happens is, I see this all the time where people try an industry, they do it for a month or two, then it turns out it's fucking hard because you don't speak their language. And then they give up and then they hop to a new industry and they do it for a month or two and they repeat it and repeat it. Just so you guys know, it took me about 6 to 12 months to be able to understand lawyers, and now I can close like 80% of lawyers, 90% of lawyers when I talk to them. The 10, 20% that I don't close, I usually don't want. And they'll often ask me questions like, where did you practice law? Because I can speak their language, right? But that came with practice and lots of conversations. So my point is, work with at least 5 of them and make sure that like you actually don't like working with them. And the reason to switch niches and pivot is because there is something that speaks to you more, like in the core of your being is more aligned with who you are. But you don't switch because it's fucking hard, man. I see people constantly hopping from niche to niche, never fucking getting anywhere, where they're like, they're 2 months with plumbers, then 1 month, oh, plumbers are too hard, I'm going to do e-com, now I'm going to do an online coach. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do dentists because they got money, and they just hop and hop and hop and hop and never get anywhere. So the wrong reason to switch is because it's hard. Lean into the difficulty. Go back to those people who are assholes to you and say, hey, where does my offer, thank you for the brutal honesty, where does my offer sound like everybody else's? They'll tell you it won't be comfortable, but man, like you can troubleshoot your shit like 1,000 times faster by getting feedback from the people who are being dicks to you. So I always like give thanks to the dicks, and when they're dicks, by the way, that has everything to do with them, because I don't know about you guys, I would get lawyers sometimes unsubscribe from my email. I remember a guy one time said, I'd never even seen him before. He was on my email list and he goes, how many fucking times do I have to unsubscribe from this bullshit? All in capitals with like 17 exclamation marks. And I said, you have to push the button 1 extra time for every time you're an asshole to a stranger on the internet. Right? Like, I don't know about you guys. I've joined a lot of email lists over the years, unsubscribed from lots of them. I never felt the need to send a nasty fucking message. Like, people pitch me the book appointments every day. I politely say no thanks. I don't feel the need to be an asshole. If somebody's an asshole, it's more about them. So, like, don't take that on and just accept it as part of the journey. But this is a useful rant just because I know all you guys deal with it at some point. Part 2 from Basil says, I just finished watching your video about all the different agency owners sharing what works for them. One common theme was to put out a bunch of targeted content for generated inbound. Any tips on best how to do that without the burnout and drudgery that creep in? Frankie Fihn, cool idea to cover in the Q&A. So this is not the be-all, end-all answer. I'm just telling you what works for us with content. People have told me, like, hey, dude, you put out a lot of fucking content, and I like to think that we do. And I'll tell you, the first thing about content is the first person your content should work for is you. Like you making the content. And so that means like talk about things that you like talking about. So just so you guys know, this stuff for me is like therapy, because like for like 14, 15 years of my journey, I couldn't talk to anybody in my life about any of this shit. Like, you know, onboarding and training and systems and like nobody fucking got it. All my friends and family, they had different lives and things like that. So the fact that I get to do this every day, like for me, is like I can't shut up about this stuff. So what are the things that you privately cannot shut up about? Those tend to make for good content, because you won't sit down and go, how do I have to make content today? You'll just fucking do it, right? Because it's in who you are. Where people struggle with content is they talk about things that aren't that interesting, and they're only trying to game the system to get extra business, right? And I'm not saying that doesn't work, but if you can talk about things you are interested in for people you are interested in working with, what you'll find is it'll just work better. It'll just work better and faster and easier, because you won't sit down and go, oh my God, I got to create content today and writer's block and blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying those things never happen, but it's a lot easier when you talk about things that are interesting to you. So there's thing number one, talk about things that are interesting to you. Thing number two that has been helpful for us is, I heard this somewhere along the way. I think it actually might have been Gary Vee, but he says, I think about content as documenting, not as writing or creating, but documenting. So this is my way of saying, you're doing cool shit, document it. So if you're in the process of trying to like message strangers and drum up business, whatever, like document that, turn that into content. Talk about messages that work and things you've learned, and what rejection feels like and what it's like on the other side. Like if you're in the process of onboarding somebody, talk about onboarding and what are the important factors. If you're running SEO campaigns, talk about SEO campaigns. Talk about the shit you're already doing, and don't think about this as, oh, I woke up today and I got to create some content. And then the other thing is, all of my content ideas, by the way, come from the market itself. And so for me, what helps is I just join communities where people are talking about shit, and then I don't have to figure it out. Like, so for example, in the restoration space, like I saw 3 conversations this morning, like insurance company ain't fucking paying me for the work I did, right? So I don't have to think about what to talk about. I'm actually doing a presentation next Monday or Tuesday, I forget which day, at a conference. I'm going to do a speech on like artificial intelligence. I'm going to show them you can use AI to respond to the insurance company politely, blah, 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 right? So that's just one example. But I'm showing you, like, you know, as long as you have a pulse on your market, you'll never run out of things to talk to. But those are the 3 things that have been helpful. Talk about shit that's meaningful, valuable to you. Document, don't create content. Document what you're already fucking doing. And then third, like, have a pulse on the topics that are important to your marketplace. Talk about those things, right? Like, this is what I'm doing with the weekly Q&A. I'm just talking about the shit you guys talk about, right? Like I said, so if you do that, what you'll find is content works. Now, the other piece I wanted to talk about content, which I didn't answer in your question in the group, but people has false expectations about content. And so I see this all the time where people start it and then they give up way too fucking early. Way too fucking early. So here's the first thing with content. In the first 90 days with content, nothing happens. Nobody cares. Nobody likes your shit. Nobody comments. Nobody finds you interesting, and there's all the temptation in the world to give up in those first 90 days and go, this shit ain't working. And it happens to me, happens to everybody else I know, and you have to persist anyway. And then what will happen is in the 3 to 6 month mark, you'll start to see signs that it is in fact working. You'll start to get a few inquiries here and there, and people will reach out. But not enough so that you feel like it's worth it. In the first 3 to 6 months, or in the 3 to 6 month period, it'll start working, but not in like a giant, meaningful, measurable way where you go, this is awesome. What happens is in 6 to 9 months, that's when it actually becomes worth it, where you're actually going, hey, our content is like actually producing sales and people are showing up and they're pre-sold and all those things. And if you can stick with it 9 to 12 months and 12 months beyond, what will happen is it'll be obvious it's working. Now I'm at the point where people quote me. I say shit and people like tag me and quote me for some shit I said just kind of off the cuff. And you get a steady stream of interested people in sales. But I'll tell you, most people can't commit to content for 12 months. They do let's put one foot into the pool and then, ooh, the water's cold. It didn't work. And so they don't stick with it long enough. And so I see this all the time where people like do shit and it doesn't work out. But if they had just played the game for a little bit longer, it would work. And so if you're going to do content, my only advice with it is commit to it for at least a year and do it every fucking day and document just the shit you're already doing. Otherwise, don't bother, because it won't work. If you're going to try it for 90 days or less and see how it goes, it won't go and it won't be worth it. But here's the thing that nobody understands about content is it has a cumulative effect. I call it the Netflix effect. Any of you guys got Netflix? What do you do when you got a series on Netflix that you want to watch? You fucking binge watch the shit out of it, right? You watch 42 episodes in a row till that thing's done. When people become interested in you, they will binge watch your shit. In the very beginning, there isn't enough of your shit for them to binge watch. But after you've been doing it for a year, there's a year's worth of stuff to binge watch. I've had people meet me and they're like, hey, I feel like I know you because I've watched 100 hours of your shit. And that's kind of the effect you want. But in the beginning, you don't have 100 hours of shit for people to binge watch you. But at some point, they will. And that just comes from cumulative effort over time. So don't give up if you're going to play the content game and drive the inbound. Michelle says, how many people here use web design as their repeatable service offering? I'm just beginning with the materials. To me, doesn't seem simple enough to scale. If not web design, what's everybody's offering as a repeatable service? So there are plenty of repeatable services, Michelle. SEO being one of those, pay-per-click being another one of those, funnels being another one of those, copywriting, email. We got lots of people doing different things, social media posting, content. I'll tell you, web design can be a repeatable service offering, but not the way that most people do it. I'm a fan of creating a series of websites that accomplish the job and then selling those same sites over and over and over and selling those on payment terms rather than upfront cash. Because the goal to me of why everybody loves this agency model is you get high ticket recurring income long into the future if you do it right? Like you can have 100,000 or 200,000, or we even got folks doing 50 million a year and having that recurring income coming in month after month after month after month. And a big secret of that, of doing the recurring income right, at least in my opinion, my humble little one guy opinion, is selling deliverables that are easy for you to do. So there's a hidden constraint in delivery, and not enough people think about this, which is called energy. And what happens is, I describe this in my book as the difference between custom and customization. And custom is when every time a client comes to you, you do something different. A custom website, for example. Customization is like, I already got the thing and it's done. So I use the example, when McDonald's was first scaling, all they sold were burgers. They eventually added fries and Coke, but in the beginning, like, they had a stupid simple menu. Come and get a burger, and that is it. Now, customization is somebody comes to you and they say, can you add extra cheese to my burger? Yes, I can. Can you hold the pickles? Yes, I can. I don't like mustard. Can you just put ketchup? Yes, I can. Can I have a double portion of onions? Yes, you can. But if they say, do you guys make Chinese food? Then that's what custom is. And then you have to figure out, where do I source the ingredients? How do I have to learn the recipes? And every time you do that, there's an energy spike, an effort spike in delivering that solution. Or they say, hey, do you guys make pizza? Now you got to buy a wood fire pizza oven. You got to look up pizza recipes. You got to source flour. You got to figure it out. What most people are metaphorically doing when they get stuck in the early stages is they're being all things to all people. And so if somebody says, do you guys do catering? They say, yes, we do. And they say yes to anybody with a credit card. And what happens is, when you focus on a small deliverable, what happens is you don't have the energy spike because the hamburger is already fucking done before they ordered it, right? Like, you might have to modify it slightly. You might have to customize it like a little teeny tiny bit, but it was pretty much done before they got it, right? And that's the position you want to be in. So an example of this, Tarek is in the Wolfpack, and one of the things he was doing when he first came to us, he was selling cleaning company websites. And every time he would get hired, he would do a design and have to start over from scratch. And what we found out is there was a pain point in the cleaning industry because they get a lot of calls from what they perceive as tire kickers, people who call them up and ask for a quote, how much is it for blah, 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 and then they hang up the phone and they never hear from that person again. And so one of the things he did is he created a quote machine on the website so you can put in your details and get a quote, and then if they call, they're much more serious about doing business because they already know approximately how much it's going to cost, and so they're not calling to find out how much it is. They already know how much it is, and so they're more serious. So the business gets less overall phone calls, but they convert way more of them overall. And so his first thing was asking the question which most people ask, like, how do I get more web design clients? How do I get more custom work? And my thing is, you have a digital asset. You have a website that's working that eliminates tire kickers. How can you sell this website over and over? And so, like, one of the things that we did was start reaching out to people and saying things like, hey, this cleaning company we have this website that eliminates the tire kickers by just giving a quote on the website. It looks great and it converts, and you'll just get like serious buyers calling you on the other side. I'd love to just give it to you for free. In fact, I'll install it for you. It'll take me less than an hour, and I'll let you try it for free for 60 days. If you like it, you can just pay $199 a month. And then what happens is you're reselling the same asset over and over, and there's very little work to do. You got to change the color, upload the logo, change the text, maybe modify the copy a small amount. But again, customization goes so much further than custom. And so web design can be a scalable service, but not the way most people do it. If you're in the selling, I do custom websites for anybody, for any reason, in any situation, shit ain't gonna scale, girl. But if you're in the, hey, I've got 4 or 5 designs that we reuse over and over and over and over and over and over, and I'd love to just give them to you and set you up on a recurring plan, that can scale. And I've seen companies do that really well. There's a company in the legal space, they're in a few other industries as well, called Scorpion. They're a $100 million a year web design company. And all they did is combine their websites with a little bit of SaaS. I'm assuming it's go high level. It's not super advanced. But what they do is like you're buying a solution. You're not buying a website. You're not buying a custom, I'll be your designer. They're like, hey, we got this thing. It works in market after market. Plug it in. It'll work for you. And you know, you get all these automations and things like that to help you follow up with the business, et cetera, et cetera. So hope that sheds some light on that, baby. Where did I go here? That was Michelle. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. I run a white label agency in Pakistan. I'm curious, how do you evaluate if a white label company is the best fit for you? I want to ace my white labeling game and would really appreciate your tips. Probably 2 things, my man. I want to know like who you're actually helping, and I'm going to do my due diligence on my own. That's the first thing. And then secondly, if you got something unique, that I can't just get anywhere, that's going to be more desirable as a white label solution than if you're just like, you know, a generic, hey, we do white label. But the biggest thing is like for us, like I need to know that you can actually deliver and make me look good on the clients. Because so much to me of finding a white label partner is finding somebody good who actually knows what they're doing. And so you know, the more you can be open and transparent with what's working for you guys and what kind of results and what you're good at and what you're not, like the more you're honest about those things, the better it'll be for everybody. So that's a short answer, but I hope it's a helpful answer. Justin says, help, I'm drowning in onboarding. I guess I'm pretty good at selling websites and marketing packages, and I'm horrible at onboarding. I need content, GMB, pictures, passwords, just all kinds of things from my clients, and I'm very unorganized. Even after 7 years in this business, this is still my downfall and biggest time waster. Is there any app for this? There's a lot of tools you can use, Justin, for onboarding at scale. So I consider onboarding 2 things. And what will help in that whole process is basically to have like a streamlined process that you're simply almost like a checklist you're working through. So I break those down into 2 parts. Part 1 is what I call welcome aboard. I want you to feel welcome, like you made a good decision, like you're in good hands. And so for us, handwritten note, welcome email, package by mail. Those 3 things. We do those every time. It takes us less than 5-10 minutes to do, but always the same. It's always the same. Like we're not reinventing the wheel. Same handwritten letter, it's personalized a little bit to you. Same welcome email, again, it's personalized a little bit to you. Same gift basket. Again, a little bit personalized to you, but always the same, right? Then the second part of onboarding is the information that you need. And if you're not doing too much custom work, the information is going to be pretty standard. It's going to be like passwords. It's going to be access. And so one of the things you may consider doing is we have a lot of people in our world doing this where they have a go high level page. There's a video embed and it walks you through what you have to do. Also, if you're running like Facebook ads, what's the one we use? I can't remember the name. Blanking on Leadsy. Leadsy is really good at being able to get access to accounts and things like that. But basically, you want to make the process stupid simple for clients. So if you need passwords, like figure that out before you get the client. These are the passwords we're going to need. And then it's simply a matter of being able to execute. And ideally, if you can direct people to a video or a training where they get that information from you, and then you show them how to get their passwords and how to share it, but they don't actually have to talk to you, your leverage will be infinite. I am a big believer. The hardest working person in your company should be digital you, right? When they're interfacing, they should be interfacing with digital you or digital somebody at your company, and therefore, like it feels like they're getting one-on-one, training and mentorship with you for how to get the passwords they need. But in reality, it's just digital you doing it. But you have to get organized about those things. And so, Onboarding starts with before you get the client, like thinking about what do I want to do to make the wow welcome? What do I need from them to actually move forward? And then just work through it like a checklist. That's really like, that's all there is to it. But I feel I was probably bad at onboarding for 10 years. And I'll tell you what helped me. We just had Joey Coleman on his book, Never Lose a Customer Again. That was a game changer for us. I hope that's helpful to you guys to check it out because it's a good book. It's a damn good book. It's a damn good book, and it makes the onboarding process a lot easier. Just follow what he talks about in the book. Josh Nelson did a follow-up book to that, which is kind of like the agency version of it. The retention handbook, that is a solid book on it as well. But just follow that process, and you'll be so much better at onboarding than had you not done it. You'll look like a pro, by the way, once you've done it. You can go from being shit at it to looking like a pro in under a week. So I hope that's helpful, my man. Brandon says, I'm in the developmental stage of starting my own agency, struggling with the niche, but thinking of targeting window cleaning business. Any thoughts or advice on this niche idea? Maybe someone already has clients in this niche and can provide some insight. Okay, so here's the deal, Brandon. I'm going to give you like the naked, unvarnished truth. I see so many people getting hung up and trying to choose the perfect niche, bitch, that they just don't fucking move forward. And they get stuck, and they get stuck, and they get stuck, and they get stuck, and they don't do anything. And they're trying to find this perfect niche. And I believe the underlying belief is that there is some secret source of money, that we're going to find a niche that nobody's ever heard of, and then that's going to be the secret of how we're going to get rich. And the reality, there's a couple of bad niches, and they're usually ones where they can't advertise for various reasons because, legal handcuffs and disclaimers and things like that. And then as well, like when it's like you can find it easily online. So like an insurance broker, like they could just go to Geico and buy it themselves. So those people tend not to make good clients. But other than that, there's very few bad niches. And what I wish I understood more, every niche, window cleaners, plumbers, dentists, whatever, is a spectrum. There are broke window cleaners. There are people doing okay in window cleaning. There are people fucking crushing it in window cleaning that are like, they have window cleaning across 7 states, right? So the goal is not to try and find some secret source of money. It's to specialize in a solution for the people within that niche that have money and are willing to pay for it, right? So you're really working with the top 5 to 10% of window cleaners, right? Not the bottom 80% or the guys just doing okay, right? If you understand that, that's where you're aiming for. If you're working with lawyers, you're aiming for the top 5-10% of lawyers. If you're working with dentists, you're aiming for the top 5-10% of dentists. If you're working with e-commerce store owners, you're aiming for the top 5 to 10% of e-commerce store owners. So this is my way of saying, like, don't get so hung up in a niche. As long as you feel like you have something to contribute a value and you would enjoy working with those people, do it and commit to it and go all in on it. But sometimes I see people, I'm not saying this is you, I'm just saying I see people that they struggle with picking their niche for 6 to 12 months, and in that time they could have worked with fucking 4 dozen people and decided whether or not they liked it, but they spend so much time thinking, if I choose wrong, I'm screwed forever. And the reality is you can change niches in 5 minutes if you want to. If you work with 10 window cleaners and you go, these guys suck or they're just not my people, it's not that hard to pivot, right? So this is my way of saying, like, don't make it a big decision. It's not a big decision. Just choose a group of people you'd like to help and then commit to do it and go get in front of those people and have conversations with them. Sounds simple, but people like screw the fuck up out of that and make it a way bigger deal than it is. Last question we got is Allie. I don't know what's up, by the way. If you guys are leaving comments or questions, I don't see them on my end, so I'm not purposely ignoring you guys if you guys are commenting. Sometimes Facebook Live is weird like that. It shows me nobody's viewing, no comments, and I know there's you guys are there, so I may have to like respond after. Ali says, quick question, based on your experience, what are the top 2 reasons that you see clients deciding to leave or to churn? Churn happens for 2 reasons, and I've been guilty of these, by the way, and still sometimes make these mistakes, just so you guys know, so don't feel bad if you're making them. But the 2 biggest reasons people churn, reason number 1 is they feel like you don't care. And that is like in a lot of little subtle things where like the client sends you a message, it takes you 3.5 days to respond, and you send a copy and paste message. Like that's a, hey, I don't give a fuck about you, right? So reason number 1, the biggest reason clients leave is because they feel like you're indifferent towards those business. And one of the easiest ways you can be good at this is start to play offense on your communication. Start communicating things before they happen, right? And a lot of times this means just making little big deals out of little things you're doing. Hey, we're just uploading your website. We're just programming it today. Just wanted you guys to know this is where we're at with this. We had a little setback today. Larry didn't come into work, so we're making up some lost time for Larry, but I'm gonna hopefully get it all caught up by Friday. Little things like that go a long way to keeping people. And then the second reason is just over-promising or expectations, kind of all in a nutshell. And I see this where people say, like, we're going to get you 100 billion fucking leads or we'll pay you $1,000. Like, those kind of offers, like, are guaranteed to fucking churn. Like, you may get clients, but you won't keep clients on that. I guarantee you'll get you some outsized result or I'll pay you money for wasting your time. That just leads to people saying, give me $1,000 for fucking wasting my time. And then nobody will see it. So this is my way of saying, like, as long as you're making small but meaningful promises that can be fulfilled on and then demonstrating to clients through your communication that you're on the ball, you will very rarely lose clients. Losing clients, by the way, almost always is not about, hey, the website isn't working or the pay-per-click isn't working or we're not getting enough ROI. I've actually seen it, by the way. My favorite example of this, I had a friend who had a client who came to him. They were making $10K per month. This was like an online coach, and they ran Facebook ads for them. And after 2 months of working together, that online coach was making between $400,000 and $500,000 per month. So that's like a 40, 50x return on investment. And then they fired them. And they said, well, that's enough for us. And so they helped this person add in an extra $390,000 per month in revenue when they started at 10K, and they got fired for it. So I want you guys to understand it's not just purely about results. You'll hear people go, just get results and clients will stay. If you seem indifferent and you seem like you don't care and all of that, like there's a restaurant here in Mexico right on the boardwalk, and it's like a really high-end place, but it takes them it's like slow islandy service, and it takes them an hour or two to actually like come take your order and bring your shit. And I don't know about you guys, but in 2 hours, like I just feel like they don't give a fuck. I don't care how good the food is if I gotta wait 2 hours because you're so indifferent to come like just, take my order and hand me menus and bring drinks and things like that. And so this is what it feels like to people when you don't like communicate properly. And almost always it's like marketers think you need to make big oversized expectations to get people. And actually, it's the small but meaningful promises that can be fulfilled on that are actually the things that keep people long term. And then the communication. The more you play offense on the communication, meaning you're updating clients before they even ask you to, that is, and this means more frequently in the beginning where they trust you the least. And then once, they've been with you 9, 12 months and there's a rhythm, you can be a little slower and all that. But that is the gist of it. And, that looks like all the questions we got. If you guys got more questions, you can ask them to me, I guess, privately, because I'm not seeing any of your questions in the chat. But I just wanted to leave a little link here for our recurring revenue workshop, which I think is going to be the coolest shit I've ever done. We figured out how to get, all of a sudden, like I see a bunch of messages there, right there. Ryan from earlier, Paul. Anyway, so on the recurring revenue workshop, we figured out really how to create what I call passive automated recurring income. It's stuff you do once and goes long into the future. I had a mentor who said this to me really simply years ago. He said, well, buddy, I basically like to do things I can do once and get paid for again and again. And when he said that, that was pretty life-changing, and I realized I had zero of it. So it has become a goal of mine because at the time, everything was do once, get paid once. And I wanted to start stacking the do once, get paid long into the future kind of stuff. And so we've really kind of, at least one way, cracked the code on how to do that. And I want to share that with you guys so that you can build that for yourself. We're doing a little workshop. I put a link to it. I think it's the coolest shit ever, but obviously I'm pretty biased on it. Check it out yourself. See if it kind of vibes with you. And that's really all I got for you guys in this. Much love. Appreciate you guys. Happy Monday. May the force be with you. Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll probably also like our free Facebook group, Beyond Agency Profits, Agency Lifestyle Design. You can get free copies of the book inside here. I look ridiculous. We're doing weekly Q&As, giving answers to all your questions. Some of the best, smartest, brightest people. We've got lots of industry leaders doing 7, 8 figures and beyond. It's a literal who's who of the brightest agency owners that I know, as well as lots of tips on scaling and stuff, books that work. So if you're not already part of it, you're going to want to be part of it. So make sure to click the link. I put it in the description of the video as well as in the pinned top comment below. So just scroll down and you can join, and it's totally free.